insights of Wolbe, which he gave on Shavuot in our yeshiva many years ago. And he brings in the middle of the page here, page Tov Zayin, Ma'amah HaGemara, the statement made in the discussion of the Gemara concerning the giving of the Torah. So,
It's hot. Heat rises, so it's cooler downstairs. Heat rises.
So the Talmudical passage which deals with the giving of the Torah refers to a verse in Tehillim, on page 88b. Rabbi Yochanan said, what is the significance of the verse? Hashem yiten omer hamavasrot savarav. God gave over a statement which brings news, it brings messages which are a large host. Every word that came out from the mouth of the Almighty when He revealed His wisdom and His will on Mount Sinai, was divided into 70 languages. I just say the concept of 70 languages goes back to the list of nations in the Parshat Noach, in the book of Genesis, where there was a description of the division of the nations, and there are 70 nations mentioned. How is the division? It's according to 4 characteristics. One is ethnic, which is still one of the signs of division of the human races, but it's combined with common language, a common land, and a common culture, which make up the division of these 70 nations. So therefore, since it expresses there these 4 elements that make up what's called a separate nation, we see from here the anti-racial aspect of the Bible. But there's some want to say the Bible teaches racialism. On the contrary, the Bible is filled with very many messages that the division of nations, it has to do also with common families. Families grew and grew and grew, and they wanted to keep together. So I'm a nation means keeping together, to be with others. But it's very interesting. Here we have really the true historical understanding of different nations, because it's obvious that when it comes to family and genetic connections between groups, it's not that alone that makes up a nation. It's one of the characteristics, but it joins together with the others. A common land and a common language. Something we have some where there are a few languages that join together, because they're in one land, like in Switzerland, so they have different divisions. But generally, the development of nations, which can change also from generation to generation, follows this pattern. And there we find 70. And the significance of 70 goes all the way through the Bible. It says, with 70 souls, Yaakov and his clan, his family, came down to Egypt. So we see also the 70 is significant. it's clear that in the visions, the prophets concerning the future of mankind throughout its history and also the final change in mankind, it says, for example, one of the prophets describing what's going to happen when history will have recognized that wars are obsolete, and it's better to join recognizing we live in one global village, and you've got to live with one another. Then there will come, it says, 10 representatives of all the 70 nations, 70 languages, and they'll go to the Jew and say, please teach us your ways, because we see that God is with you. It's a prophecy, which has partly become fulfilled today. So what's the concept of the 70? So if we go into more deeply, 70 is 7 times 10. The number 7, as we've often described, represents the harmony within the diversity of all the different aspects of nature and also of history. That's the symbolic concept of 7 all the way through the Bible and also Jewish observance. And 10, even if you explain Sheva, the word for 7, ultimately 70, Shavuot, Shivim, 70, is a concept of Shavuot. In other words, it's the way of bringing the harmony in the world around us despite the diversity. In other words, the peace is not obtained through uniformity. It's obtained through diversity. But diversity that works together, just like in music. Music got also 7 different notes. And if they harmonize, you've got different voices. There are baritones, you've got sopranos, many different types of voices, and many different instruments. If they harmonize one with the other, it's beautiful. It's one of the great experiences. The symphony, which combines a choir with an orchestra of instruments, it can elevate the spirit of the person to the highest level. When does that happen? If they all work together. If they don't, it's a cat's chorus, and it's terrible. And this is the concept of developing harmony. With harmony is the way in which Hashem expresses His mind in the universe to create harmony in all our surroundings. That human beings will also learn the principle of harmony. That's the concept of the 70. So, the 7. And the 10, the word for 10 is asara, which is the same root as the word osha. Osha is wealth, also with a sheen, but with a dot on the right side. And asar is 10, with a dot on the left side. In some languages, they don't make a distinction between the sheen and the sin, like for example in Greek. So that's why all the sheens in the names of whatever it is, cities or persons mentioned in the Bible, in the non-Jewish Bibles, the sheen becomes an S sound, because in the Greek that's what it was. There was no special letter for the sound sh. So, but see, what the sages say, it all has to do with ma'aseh. In other words, ma'aseh, what's ma'aseh? A person gives away a tenth. So the sages say, aser tit aser. It says you've got to surely separate ma'aseh, the tithe. So they say, aser b'shvil shetit asher. If you give away 1/10, you'll become rich. In other words, a person's got to know in life he's given frequently more than he really needs. And even if he doesn't feel it, how can he feel it? If he gets used to the idea, the 1/10 of whatever he has got to give to people who don't have what he has. That's the concept of the tithe. In other words, who is a rich person? The person that I've got more than I really need. So what shall I do with it? Shall I use it for extra luxuries? The Torah says no, use it to help the poor, help to those who don't have. And if all human beings will accept the concept of a tithe to give to people who are starving, there'll be no starvation left in the world. And that's what we have to learn to do. And so some of the big millionaires do recognize it. They're giving millions for charity. That's the concept of Eser. Ezeo Ashir Samech Bechelko, the richest person says, I've got enough. I've got my portion, including a portion of my ability to help others. So this is a deeper concept of 7 times 10, which combines the two aspects, that's 70. So we say all the languages are divided in 10, and every word that came out from the 10 commandments, from the Aseret Hadib, or the 10 sayings, the concept of 10, they were divided, each word was given in all the 70 languages. Anton de Berab Ishmael, Kapatish Yefoitze Sela. So it says, the word of Hashem is like a hammer that breaks up a rock into different pieces. So it says like this, the hammer itself, if the hammer comes across a rock that is much harder than the metal of the hammer, then the metal of the hammer splits up. It says, Kapatish Yefotzes, as a hammer is split up when it tries to break a rock that is very, very hard and can't do it. So also every word was like a hammer, but the Etzem Adibor, the word, was divided into 70 languages. And what is the significance of Mispashiv b'Chazal kolel kol hakochot kula? Now it's very interesting, there's a sefer of the Gaon of Vilna where he speaks about all the psychological talents which exist in the human being and divides them also into 7. And there are many different talents that human beings can develop within themselves. So he says there's one word came out from the Almighty, but just like that, he brings here Marun Patish on Futzet Sela, just like a hammer. You could say there's 2 ways that the rock breaks up. It can also mean that the hammer breaks up into different pieces of metal. So the word of Hashem also divided up. Really, we would say the simple explanation of this: the words of the Torah are so strong, the words that came out from Hashem, that they're able to penetrate. Even a person has a heart that is like a heart of rock. In fact, this is the concept of the engraving in the stone, the Luchot Even. It says the Yetzer Hara is like an Even. The even inclination transports the heart into being so strong and so resisting any influence that it's like when the heart, I've had some, if the heart becomes very hard, it's like with the hardening, we know hardening of veins is even a danger to a person's life. And hardening of the heart, when the heart becomes very hard, it brings a person's death. It brings a heart attack, finished. And the heart's got to be a soft pump to be constantly producing circulation. So, he says, what's the explanation of this? There's 2 different explanations. The one explanation given in the Gemara in Shabbos. There's another explanation given for this verse, which is a bit different. It says in Kiddushin, where it speaks about the power of the Torah to change a person's heart. What happens if this lowly corrupt menace comes against you, which is the menace of the evil inclination that tells you, spend your time on the race to become powerful, to become rich, to have a lot of pleasure, and it wants to take you away from the true service of Hashem. What should you do? Drag him into the Beit HaMidrash. Imu Even. What happens if the Yetzer Hara is like a stone, like a rock? Then it melts. It can melt through the power of being in the Beit HaMidrash and learning Torah. In Bazelhu, what happens if the Yetzer Hara comes like a metal hammer they're metal, strong metal. Then mitpotzets, it breaks into pieces. Because it's our law, my word is like a fire. That's one aspect. Ukapatish for the seller, also like a hammer that is broken by a rock. So it's a different. Both of these statements, the one in Shabbat and the one in Kiddushin, they are all authored by from the Beit Ishmael. So therefore they're really one statement. So what's the explanation behind this? So he said the explanation is really that person who busies himself with learning Torah is not like a person who's studying mathematics or studying literature or even someone who's studying philosophy. It's not an intellectual exercise alone. It's also intellectual. You've got to use your intellect to learn Torah. But if the Torah would only be speaking to the intelligence of man, then everybody who was present at the giving of the Decalogue would have understood it with objective, intelligent tools and said, oh, Hashem is asking us here to follow this pattern of life. So it sets up, you might say, a moral system for the human being and for society. But the Holy Torah speaks to all the different potential talents and powers that exist in the totality of the human soul. To everything. And here we find that everyone is different. It also speaks, doesn't it speak to his intellect, it speaks to his basic passions. The patish, the hammer, it beats upon all the different powers of the human being and gets right inside him, el toch tocho shel adam, until it comes to even the lowest, more materialistic instincts of the human being, the instincts which are deep in the animal soul of the human being, even the most unbelievable low drives in the human personality. You want to know what are the lowest drives, you don't have to look far today. With these people who just have hate in their mind, destruction, they're much worse than, there are no beasts that at least organize whole groups and influence their fellow species, whatever it is, to go and make mass attempts which are suicidal, to kill as many as possible of their own species. There isn't such a thing. We do know there are very ravenous types of animals in the world. But, also, there is man-eating crocodiles. They just found it someplace, I think in the States. They're a big menace. But these man-eating crocodiles, they don't go and eat all their fellow crocodiles. No. Not so. But human beings do. They've got a worldwide organization, and they say it's the richest, it's become the richest group of extreme Muslims who are out to kill. They're publicizing as well. They say, oh, they're proud of it. They're proud of the fact, well, it's unbelievable. The lowest instincts that could be imagined. We had them all amongst the Nazis also. But they were targeting mainly Jews. Now, today, they're targeting everybody, doesn't agree with them. They're fellow Muslims. What's going on here? And then there are others. There are plenty of people around. They have power. And I just saw there are 48 million slaves today in some of the countries. So they have some ruler who wants to have a lot of power. And then there are people who are complete slaves all their lives. There's even some of them, they make them work, and then after they're no longer suitable for work, they die and they cut up their bodies to go and sell their organs, make a business out of it. What's going on? And also, the permissiveness of some reach such a level that you have such such perversions that are so much against nature, and they're destroying family life. They're proud of it. The proud gaze, they're making a virtue out of a vice. What's going on here? So therefore, it says here, he speaks about the Yitzarim Achish Felim. But from the depth of the beatings that the Torah, the barrage of higher thoughts that come in the mind and the feelings of a person when he's learning Torah, even the Yetzer is so harsh and hard, like a stone, it breaks up. Either it melts away, it's one type, another type, if it's made of iron, they say like this, it's ka'esh, like it against Evan. So the eish is the hot passion. The hot passion of Torah can melt even stones. You can wear them down. And what does it mean that Bechinat Barzel? That what happens if the Yetzer Hara is cold and cruel, the passion of cruelty, and being so hard-hearted that they don't mind killing all sorts of people and not batting an eyelid. That's, even it's like iron, but the power of the Torah, it breaks it up. So when the words of Torah go deeply right inside the individual, then the individual feels that every word of Torah also helps him to channel and control the lowest instincts, which he wouldn't speak about to anybody. But the Dibur is Holem, it beats upon them with the power of a hammer, and the Yetzer melts, breaks up. This shows the person the inner light of the Torah, which only he can see, because the Yetzer of one person is different to another person. It says in Pirkei Ezeu Gibor HaKovesh et Yitzro. Who is a mighty man? The person who can control and channel his evil inclination. And each person's inclination is different from the other. You can't say everyone's the same. And this is, in fact, it's borne out in all the experience I've had with working with people, all types. Some with intellectual obstacles to accept the Torah, other emotional obstacles. That there's no blanket rule because there's no blanket soul. Each soul has its own individuality. And therefore, you have to try, as some of you mentioned yourself, you want to bring a person nearer to Hashem, nearer to Torah. What did Hillel say? Ohev et habriot, love all human beings. The first sign of love, listen to what he has to say and try to find out what does he make him feel that he's a creature of Hashem. Each creature was created in a different way. In fact, it says in the Mishnah that the first man was created as an individual to teach us every individual human being is a world to himself. And if you want to help your own individual, you also. Each one of us. You want to understand yourself. So you come into confrontation with Torah. And then you'll see from the confrontation with Torah, where do you hold yourself? One of the first questions I ask, almost every student who comes to the yeshiva and wants to know, well, what should you do? I say, what do you love learning most? If he says, look, I don't know the Torah, I say, I don't know what I love in the Torah. I don't know what it is. I want to know what it's all about. So I ask him, okay, so what have you studied? What did you like learning at school? Do you like music? Or some people like, music for me, that was the best. Okay. Do you like art? Then you go and show him where he can find music in the Torah. And there's enormous amount of music in the Torah. And there's an enormous amount of art in the Torah. All the marvels of nature and so on, all different. So a person would say, what I've loved, I've known nothing about Judaism, but I've always enjoyed reading mystical books. and they've turned me on. So really, I'm interested to come here, would like to come to the yeshiva, and I would like to learn, is there anything about mysticism? So I said, yes, there is. Get that as his road. I had a student who was a brilliant doctor, and he said, he can't go and learn Gemara, impossible. He's tried sometimes, it doesn't make it, not for him. So what can you study? So I said to him, you go and do research. In fact, he has a specific aspect of research. He was doing research on alcoholics from a medical angle. So I said, very good. You go and work hard. I'll help you, give you the sources. On all the sources in the Tanakh concerning alcoholism, there are many sources. From last week's Parsha, all of you know. But from Noach, from the time of Noach till the time of the future wine stored in the grapes we're going to eat when the Mashiach comes, there's a long list of many sources, also in the Gemara, that brought him. In fact, he made a thorough study of this. I wrote an article which came out in the first issues of our Jewish Study magazine. At the same time, I got into the Gemara. We started enjoying it, because that was what he liked. And the Gemara itself says, Ein Adam lomed ele ma shelibo chafetz. A person can only learn what his heart desires. Let's say if his heart desires to know all about food, it's very interested in food and eating. Plenty. You can go to the psychosomatic aspects of food, which lie at the root of the laws of kashrus. There's so many things. There's no area of any form of human interest and endeavor which doesn't have its roots in the Torah. It's a ruka me'eretz midah. It says the measure of Torah is so wide that it includes directives and guidance in all areas of life, and that goes all through the method. Like we know, there's the written text, but the written text has to become. It's referred to, in fact, at the end of the Chumash, the written text is called a song. It's got to be a song. It's got to be in our hearts. It's not good enough that the Torah, we should know it intellectually. It's got to get into our personality. So each one's got a different personality. And therefore, here you have the varied person of each individual. So he says that's what the sages mean here. The Decalogue is so strong that it can influence every human being, and Hashem was speaking to all mankind. Like the mashal we brought yesterday of the laughing cavalier. He gives everybody his own route. And that's why there is a great value. The one I'd say is very interesting in our yeshiva. There was a certain lady, she came from a semi-religious background, a rich lady. And she decided that the best influence for the world was the knowledge of the Decalogue. So therefore she came to Israel, and she said she's willing to support the yeshiva. We put at the entrance the Decalogue, which we did for her. She paid for it. Then she said, I would like to go and put up all over the country, at every crossroads, the Decalogue. And we helped her to make contact with the planning ministry of the town. And she got permission. And when she was here, she worked hard at it. Then she said, I want someone to put the 10 Commandments on the mountain of Sinai. Nobody can see them there. And the Sinai is assumed to be the place where there's the monastery, which has some backing to it in certain artifacts, because on that mountain they've also found the fossil. On every stone on the mountain, the fossil of a little bush. The Sinai is milashon snare. So therefore, she said, I want somebody to go there. This was the time also when Sadat was planning to make a place of prayer on that mountain, which would have a mosque. I mean, there's a church there already, so there's a monastery. Wanted a mosque to be there, and a synagogue. He was trying to get that organized with all 3 monotheistic religions, they're called, on Sinai. They all believe in the 10 Commandments. So, well, you've met my son Avraham. At that time, my son Avraham was a yeshiva bacher. Since he was a boy, he was a great explorer. He loved it. So he took it on himself. At that time, you could get, you were allowed to go to see nuts. They weren't in your minds there. So today it's a pretty dangerous place. So at that time, it was possible to go. So he went, read a plaque, he put up the Decalogue, top of the mountain, he put up the Decalogue, I think in Hebrew and English. So the truth is that in America also, there are many schools and states where, not only through him, also sometimes the state itself decides they want to put up a copy of the Decalogue. And we would wish today that all Muslim countries would also put up the Decalogue where it says, Lo tirtzach, thou shalt not murder. It doesn't say anything about achicha, your brother. If it says achicha, for example, it says Lo tachmod, you should not be covered the house or the wife of your brother. So you can claim, okay, that's a commandment basically of people of Israel. But Lo tirtzach and Lo tinov is mentioned without anything afterwards. That means you shouldn't murder anyone. And I'll tell you something, there's even the Midrashim speak about this. I still remember one Shavuot, there was a time, our yeshiva, and I was also able to go to the Kotel. Every Shavuot, in the early days of yeshiva, we made our minyan at the Kotel. We took our Sefer Torah, we made a big minyan, and we soon had nice ballet tefillah. It's possible, much easier then. It's not that day, it's so crowded, it's very difficult. But then we did it, and also I was a bit younger. So I still remember, so I read from the Torah, and one of the people who were there joining our minyan was the Meir Kahana. You all know the Meir Kahana. Well, you know, he went beyond the decision of the Rabbanim. He said, we today, we've got to battle against, we've got to not regard the Muslims as our brothers, got to have transition of populations, and he was a bit of went too far in what many people thought was a racist concept. Yeah. He said, okay, you have a permission to say sometimes death to the Arabs, yeah, which the Rabbanim would never agree to. But that was his shitta to some extent. You could say death to the Arabs, and today we know this youngster, Meir Ettinger, he's the grandson of Meir Kahana, and he thinks he's got to keep up his teachings. And we know things that be done so much against the halacha of nearly all the poskim of today by this group that goes to extremes. And today we still have it. They go against the decision of all the Rabbanim that a person's forbidden to go on the Har HaBayit. And they still go. They're religious, yes, we're religious, but we must go on the Har HaBayit. So even if it provokes the Arabs, if the Arabs don't behave themselves, we've got to eliminate them. They've got to learn not to attack us. And they've done things which that some of these groups, I mean, they're a bit on a fringe element, but they come out with teachings which is against the Torah. You even have some little bit of support from a certain Rav, one of the most popular ones amongst these youngsters. I know there's a youngster of 20. He's got an organization to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash, which is provoking the Muslims. He wants to build the Beit HaMikdash on the Har HaBayit. A youngster of 20, he's got his own organization. It's a serious fringe element, and it goes back a bit to Rav Kahana. And for a time, he even got a party in the Knesset until his party was banned because of racism. And it is a bit racist. It's against the tradition of the prophets and against the decision of the Chachomim of all generations, especially our generation. And even those who discussed 200 years ago, maybe we can bring the Korban Pesach on the Temple Mount. The whole halachic discussion was on the basis the Muslims agreed, because there have been times when good relationships with the Muslims, they said, we don't mind, as long as you don't touch our mosque, which nobody has permitted, no Rav has permitted, it must be touched. And the only people who were planning were people who, and some of them were insane, like the Jerusalem syndrome, they thought that's my... But still, you get such youngsters, they're not insane. You get like this, the grandson of Meir Khan is not insane, but they've had to stop him, because it's too dangerous. So this is it. I even saw now that there's some so-called Rabbonim, some of the call themselves Rabbonim, who came out encouraging them, which is terrible. It's very much against the Torah, against all the poskim. So, we've got today a situation that we have to remove these instincts. It comes from instincts, from lower instincts of destructivity. We've got to purify them. So we all have to hard work. How do you do it? You do it through thorough Torah study. For the Torah, it says, the path of the Torah, all paths of pleasantness, all the paths of Torah are for the sake of peace. And that's why, even when Yeshua came to conquer the land at the command of Hashem, his first message was, anyone who's willing to make peace, we've got a condition. You've got to give up your idolatry. You've got to give up idolatry. You've got to give up your Molech worship. But if you give that up, we can make peace with you. And that was the rule, to make peace. And certainly, in later times, there was a special commandment that the more or less the total population of the lands of Canaan become so corrupt that Hashem decreed they have to be destroyed, have to be replaced by holy people. And the holy people, in order to give them the strength not to be influenced by the Canaanite worship, therefore he said, you've got to destroy their idols. And also all the idolaters, if they don't give it up, you have to destroy them as well. Because this is a cancer in the true divine image of the human being. Also even with Sodom and Amorah, which preceded it, in the end Hashem said that has to be destroyed. If you don't have a minyan, which was the minimum of a society, where there is it's a certain minimum level of justice, then if you don't have that, it's going to produce another Mabul. And that has to be avoided. Today we see it in fact. Unless all sensible human beings get together, it's a very serious situation that's going on. The threats are enormous. Daesh are still the richest Muslim power in the world, despite all the attacks against them. The attack isn't strong enough, because they've got hidden allies, and some open allies. So let us hope that the words of the Decalogue will indeed penetrate all the hearts of Am Yisrael, including the fringe element, and all the hearts of all the nations of the world. And that will bring peace.
Amen.
Got just time for one short question.
I have a question. So you mentioned about how to avoid a mabul in today's day and age. What about with the information age, with such easy access to the internet and having easy access to everything at our fingertips?
Yeah.
How can that be used for good? Because it's not any different than
It can be used for good, very much so. And they're doing it, like Hidabrut and others. We have to publicize as much as possible the moral teachings of the Torah and use the internet.
When will they be able to limit the information only for good and for rebuilding? That's the question.
Well, they're working very hard here in Israel to make sure people learn Torah, should not have smartphones. There have been plenty of people whose lives and the lives of their family have been corrupted from dedication to Torah to dedication to pornography and all other evils. And that can happen with anybody, because the barrage of information is so strong, and the inner Yetzer Hara everybody has in different ways, and it's a very serious threat. It's a threat altogether for the human mind, because the more the people become addicted to the internet, mass media, the less they use their own minds. They don't have a mind anymore, because the mind is entirely, like let's say, I was saying, to some extent, they're addicted to the screen, and as a result, whatever's put on the screen will change them. So Hidabrut is one of the big organizations today in Israel, which means dialogue. Hidabrut is a movement of dialogue, where they put on the internet for everybody to use Torah and purity, non-stop. This is, and today there are organizations that work hard to give people the ability to use internet for their business, for other good positive purposes, with strong limitations. And there are experts who work out a program whereby I can cut out all such stupid things. Even, let's say, I see even on the internet, I take the email of the yeshiva, and we have the highest filtering that's available, but all sorts of things get through. Sometimes a girl comes on the internet, says wants to speak to so and so. It goes on the internet. The yeshiva, I don't know who's
How do you know it's a
using
girl?
it. People, I don't know, different. I knock it off right away when I see it. And when they had YouTube, for example, YouTube is very serious. Somebody told me that it was on YouTube. If I would look at it, there was a fantastic video of the combat chaplain, my son Avron. Yeah, so I got on the YouTube. When the YouTube stopped with his, went straight over to pornography. I was shocked, very bad. Even although we've got limitations, I don't know. So then I got somebody to filter it and get it onto our.
So places that
It's
have.
gone, and so now you can find it on our Achiever without any reference to YouTube.
Okay.
But YouTube is risky. And one has to have such filtering that is sometimes gets broken through.
Thank you.
Okay.